This is Future Talk.
Future Talk.
Future Talk with Omnia Saleh and Hani Balkis.
Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome back to Future Talk right here on Pulse 95. This is the one and only place where we give you a quick roundup of everything that is happening in the tech world, in the UAE, and all around the world. Hope you're all having a great day and enjoying the cooling off summer.
Yes.
I feel like the weather has definitely been getting a little less hot.
It is getting a lot much more breezier now. When I've been saying in the news, obviously I check the weather before I give the weather announcement. And for the first time in over 4 months, I've said Sharjah skies are clear with 36 degrees and not 42.
Oh my God.
So we're looking at,
Can we get a round of applause?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at, the autumn weather, the winter weather coming through. So, that is good news. But obviously we have even better news because the UAE government has selected young Emiratis who will develop ideas for the next 50 years.
Yes, indeed. We're going to be talking about the young Futureneers that the UAE is announcing very, very soon. Coming up on today's show, we've got some news about iPhone updates and iPhone parts. And one country has decided to basically have Apple offer all of its users those updates and parts for the next 7 years. Which country are we talking about and how are they able to do that? You got to stay tuned to find out more about it.
Yes, time and time again, we've seen the European Union grab Apple by the neck when it does come to, the right to repair and things like that. But for our Tech This Out segment, we're talking about Singapore and how it is trialing a patrol robot to deter bad social behavior. What could that mean? Well, you just got to find out.
Yes, indeed. In the world of apps, we're going to be talking about rankings once again. And sadly, yet again, we are talking about one MacOS that has actually dropped in the ranking in comparison to other popular desktop operating systems. And we're going to tell you exactly who was able to kind of succeed over them.
Yes, and we're not done talking about robots just yet because Japan has made robot grandchildren for lonely grandparents. Now, it is a nice but sad story that, we have to resort to creating robot grandchildren for the elderly who don't have grandchildren of their own.
Daily digital news. Bits and bytes connect our world.
Ladies and gentlemen, the UAE government has selected young Emiratis who will develop ideas for the next 50 years. Now, it goes under the initiative of the Futureneers and was launched as part of its efforts to achieve the national goals under the 10 principles for the next 50 years. Now, just yesterday, the UAE did launch a team of Futureneers, which does consist of young Emirati talents who will be brainstorming ideas and solutions that can prepare the country for the future.
Yes, indeed. And we typically know that in the tech world, there is a term known as futurists. And this term, or this, let's say, title, is usually given to tech giants, to tech founders who try to find solutions for issues that we've long struggled with. They try to find ways around this, and they try to find, they think critically. One example is, let's say, the ethics around self-driving cars, or even, the future of farming. We've seen a lot of people who have been interested in hydroponics and have been trying to find laws and ways to go about it. And these are people who we tend to call as futurists. Though these Futureneers are basically the futurists of the UAE. So it's an initiative that was launched by the UAE Government Development and the Future Office. And those Futureneers are going to be young experts, young professionals from different sectors in this country. They're going to be creating proactive solutions, developing innovative ideas, and also helping design national policies and projects for every person living in this country.
Yeah, and they're specializing in fields that range from business and economy to architecture, science, public policy, technology, and even forensic science. So we're looking at a broad and vast majority of all different types of professions and specialties to be combined into one, because obviously to row a boat you need every single compartment working to keep on rowing. So we're looking at how the participants were selected based on specific criteria, and that did include their ability and skills in obviously shaping the future, diversity of knowledge, scientific and even professional achievements. Now, we do know that the main focus is the ability to develop ideas that are aligned with the UAE's vision for the next 50 years. So all of these, young Emiratis, or we should call them Futureneers, fit the criteria to help shape the UAE for the next 50 years.
Absolutely. And when we're looking at who are a part of this initiative, we have some pretty popular names that some of them we've actually had on Future Talk before. Others have been making headlines all across the past few years. So one of the members of the team is actually Ali Al-Mansouri, who is very known for her big passion in science and space. So she's going to be part of this initiative. We also have Amna bin Thania, who is going to be in the field of development management and architecture. There's another young woman who's known as Fatima Galdarish, who's going to be a part of the investment banking profession. And we've also got part of the team, Noura Al-Saeed, who is specializing in the field of astrophysics and planetary sciences. Muhammad Al-Mansouri, who's going to be in technology development and forensic sciences. So many popular names in different sectors, because at the end of the day, it's not just a person who specializes in tech who'll be able to be a futureneer or help the UAE shape the next 50 years, but rather people from every sector are needed to collaborate and work together.
Yes, and again, just to show you the scope of how young these talents are, Ali Al-Mansouri is, I believe she's around 16 or 15 years old.
16, 17. I think she just entered university.
16 to 17 years old. So to give such a platform to help shape your country for the next 50 years, that is a big achievement. And these children, or these young adults, or again, we should call them futureneers,
yes,
are on fire.
Daily digital news. Bits and bytes connect our world.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the apples. The apples. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, but...
You know, it's funny that you say this, because I feel like every single day we have a story about Apple.
Yeah, and we have no doctors on the show, so it's working. But ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to Apple, there's a lot of controversy, right? Because when we're talking about Apple products and how if anything happens to said Apple product, you gotta jump all the way to the Apple Store or any other authorized retailer or service provider, and you'll pay a hefty price to fix it. Well, Germany, right, they have different plans for Apple. Now, over the past couple of months, we've been talking about how the European Union, they actually want the right to repair. They want to make all USB-Cs for all types of phones and make it that one, cable that, or the one key that opens all the doors. And
basically,
they want that obviously to combat global warming, to combat, waste management. But now Germany wants Apple to offer iPhone updates and even parts for 7 years.
Now, I feel like a couple of countries in the European Union do show Apple what we call in Arabic العين الحمراء.
Right, the red eye.
Yeah, the red eye. So they don't...
You can't mess with us.
Yeah, like they try to show dominance over Apple and showcase that you either follow our rules or you're out the window.
Yeah, and we've seen the same type of dominance in China as well.
True.
So it's kind of weird, Omnia. We're looking at the European Union grabbing all of these tech giants by the neck. China as well. ByteDance isn't a small company.
Nope.
And they grab them by the neck. But North America, they don't care.
True.
They let them do whatever they want. You know why? Because it makes them money.
True. Now, with smartphone producers, including Apple, what Germany wants is to basically have it become a requirement for these smartphone manufacturers to give you security patches, spare parts for the iPhone and many other devices that Apple creates every single year for the next 7 years. And that is a proposal that the German government has given to the European Union in a bid to make the product category much better for the environment as a whole. Instead of people replacing their phones, they can just fix those parts without necessarily paying an arm and a leg for it. So the German federal government has actually already entered negotiations with the European Commission to alter all the proposals that are affecting and impacting every smartphone, every tablet, repair and servicing. And the European Commission is currently working to push the device vendors into giving those parts and vendors. My only question is, why is it only 5 or 7 years? So the European Commission wants it for 5 years. Germany wants 7 years. Why those specific numbers?
All right, I'll have a hunch, right? Because let's talk about technology in general.
True.
Right? After 5 years, you can call it outdated. right?
I like that, yeah.
After
the phone no longer functions, even if you replaced most of the parts.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about basic use, even when it does come to Samsung, which a lot of people, use as a budget phone, and Samsung does provide a lot of, we can say right to repair movements, but 5 to 7 years, I think 7 years is kind of an overkill. I think 5 years is, the optimal. And also when we're looking at, devices and technology and phones in general, there are liabilities just like cars. So if Omni and I, we went to go buy a car from, let's say, Mercedes, right? They'll give us a 5-year contract, which is service contract and a warranty. After that, you're on your own, right?
True.
So we're looking at it the same way, and the European Union is trying to, consider iPhones or in general smartphones as a liability, and because it is not a cheap purchase.
No.
You're paying, and in different parts of the world, actually, we look at different prices. Over here, an iPhone will cost you 5,000 to 6,000 dirhams. In India, believe it or not, they go for 7 to 8.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people will buy, a lot of Indians will come to the UAE or any other country, and they'll buy iPhones and take it back.
Yeah,
right?
I know in let's say Palestine or Jordan, it's the same situation.
Currency.
Yeah.
It's currency.
It's like 1,000 or 2,000 difference for the same exact phone.
Yeah, so again, when you're making such a big purchase, right, you need to have, number one, the right to repair. Number two, Apple does give you, hey, we'll give you Apple Care, right? But that's 2 years, and you're paying on top of that another, I believe it's 700 dirhams.
At least.
Right? So again, at the end of the day, you're paying around 6,000 to 7,000 dirhams, and you don't want to just throw these phones away, because I know, for example, right now, I have an iPhone 12 Pro Max, 256 gigabytes. When I give it, when retail price right now, I think, Omnia, you have the same exact phone, right?
Yeah, same thing.
How much did you buy it for? Because I don't know.
5,000?
5,000.
Or 4,900, probably 5,000.
Let's round it to 5,000, right? If I go, when the iPhone 13 drops, and I give them my phone, I say I want to make a trade, they'll give me around 3,700. So depreciation value over 1 year is already 1,300 dirhams.
True.
So again, not the smartest investment, but again, you don't invest into tangible items like phones and cars, etc. But again, it just goes to show that the European Union is trying to make these tangible items last longer.
Okay, so if God forbid something happened, a part is messed up, you need to replace a battery, you need to replace whatever, it shouldn't be, it shouldn't cost an arm and a leg to do that.
And again, look how we're talking so detailed about phones now, because nowadays, phones are like cars, right? They are, number one, expensive. Number two, they need maintenance, and there is wear and tear in a phone. Battery, screen, camera, these things deteriorate over time. So how can we make the most out of it? European Union has the greatest idea, the right to repair. Maybe Germany with the 7-year updates. I'm kind of looking at the 5-year update.
I like how they've even separated it. So they said for smartphones, they want 5 years spare parts and software updates. For tablets, they are aiming towards six years. The Ministry of Economics the Federal Ministry of Economics in Germany, though, wants to stretch it to 7 years across tablets and smartphones.
Tablets and laptops, 7 years, perfect.
Yes.
Omnia, before you bought your new laptop, how long did you have your laptop for, the old one?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Before you had your iPhone XS?
I think, it was the XS Max.
Okay, how long did you have that for? 3.5 years.
Yeah.
There's a rule of thumb that everyone should go by, right? 2 models, replace. 2 models, replace. But for me,
that's exactly what I was telling I think I was telling my mom or my dad a couple of months ago with their phones. I'm like, you can't wait for more than 2 models, because then you're just going to feel the difference.
Yeah, 2 models replace, and unless you're a spoiled brat like me, you get every time.
No, come on. It's not about, at the end of the day, you host it extra. It's worth it.
Let us know your guys' thoughts, 4215 Durat Salat, or on our Instagram at Pulse95 Radio. We're taking a short break, but when we come back, we're talking all about robots that will deter bad social behavior.
Check this out. Check this out. Pulse 95.
Whenever we're teaching kids about what behavior is good and what behavior is bad, we typically, tend to associate bad behavior with the naughty corner or the naughty chair. Soon enough, all of us as adults may just have a naughty corner because robots are watching. There's a robot in Singapore that is basically being trialed to deter bad social behavior. So if you're throwing garbage on the street. If you're crossing the road or jaywalking in locations where you shouldn't be, you may not just be stopped by a police officer, but you'll be stopped by a robot who may just be just as authorized to kind of give you some beef for whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, now, believe it or not, Singapore is ranked one of the safest countries in the world, and they have put 2 autonomous robots on trial to detect bad behavior such as flouting of COVID-19 safety measures, smoking in prohibited areas, and the improper parking of bicycles. Now, do you know that, Omnia, you're not allowed to chew gum in the street in Singapore?
What?
Yes, you're not allowed.
Not throw or just chew?
Chew, because obviously you'll throw it.
What?
Yeah, you're not allowed.
The things you find out.
It's very clean.
Wow.
Now, these two patrol robots are named Xavier and are equipped with cameras that can detect bad social behavior and even trigger real-time alerts to the command and control center.
I love these robots because it only took them 3 weeks to trial them, and they were already ready to be placed in real-life situations. These robots are going to be used for surveillance. They display messages on their bodies that would educate the public on what behavior is proper, and they are going to be used frequently on the roads, but not part of law enforcement just yet. The deployment of Xavier will be supporting the work of police officers, so it's not a replacement of police officers. However, it will help reduce manpower, so police officers can at least get some rest from patrolling the roads, and these robots could be put to work. Now, what's interesting is that statistics actually show that we are going to have in Singapore alone about 200,000 police cameras by 2030. And if I'm making a good guess, I feel like there's going to be more of these robots out there on the roads with cameras attached to them.
Yes, let us know your guys' thoughts, 4215. Do us thoughts or on our Instagram at Pulse95 Radio.
Pulse 95.
Apps all around.
What's worth a click and download? Pulse 95.
Ladies and gentlemen, Apple is getting knocked off the charts in every single way possible.
2 days in a row.
Yeah, now just yesterday we did talk about how Apple got kicked off.
iPhones.
Yeah, the Apple got kicked off the smartphone ranked number 2 and they became ranked number 3. Xiaomi did take over. And now we're talking about how macOS has dropped to the 3rd most popular desktop OS. And Chrome OS is now 2nd, but it grabbed market shares from Microsoft, but not Apple. Now, we're looking at how Apple is kind of, falling in a way when it comes to charts. I mean, people lie, numbers don't, and the numbers don't lie.
Absolutely. 2020 was definitely a very unusual year for everyone, but it also made very clear our own habits when it comes to surfing the internet. There was a big shift in the desktop operating system marketing and the market itself, and we've actually seen Windows, constantly having a commanding lead with macOS coming in the 2nd place. However, over time, we've seen Google Chrome's OS kind of move up the ranking, and now they are in 2nd place, pushing the Mac operating system down to 3rd. You may think that would signal bad news for Apple, but it actually is Microsoft that suffered, because the figures reveal that the macOS use increased from 6.7% market share back in 2019 to 7.5% last year. Windows, though, they suffered a steep drop. They fell from 85.4% to 80.5% in 2020. And Google Chrome OS was the big winner because it jumped from 6.4 to 10.8. Everyone was using the Google Chrome operating system.
Now, we do know that 2020 was the biggest year for PC demand in a decade. Obviously, that is in help with the COVID-19 pandemic and a lot of people working from home. And millions of people were told to stay home, but they still needed to be to be entertained, and children still did need to learn. So everyone and anyone bought a computer. And with that in mind, it is impossible to predict if this Chrome OS surge was simply due to a combination of so many people needing a laptop, a short supply and cost, or if macOS will become a permanent 3rd place desktop operating system now. So obviously we do know that Chrome OS, or the Chromebook caters most for students, right?
And a lot of schools were actually giving them out for students to be able to learn online.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're looking at students being the most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic because I think until just a couple of weeks ago, they were studying from home, distant learning. And just a couple of weeks ago, they got back onto campus and they're still doing that week on, week off type of scenario. Now, Microsoft does clearly realize that Chrome OS is a threat to its market share and is responding, but Windows 10X is in development as a vital competitor to Google's operating system. And we're looking at every time Microsoft releases a new Windows, there is going to be a surge. And I do hope that Windows 10 is going to be that one because I am a user of both Windows and macOS. macOS is for work and my Microsoft or Windows is for my casual gaming type of setup. Now, we obviously shouldn't be surprised if laptops and tablets running 10X appear this year, although they still haven't, made a release date just yet.
Absolutely. I want to hear from all of you. 4215, do it still out or set into RDMs at Pulse 95 Radio. Do you use a Mac OS? Do you like the Chrome operating system? I feel like most schools right here in the UAE, they were actually providing students with Chrome OS notebooks, tablets, you name it, because they're just a lot more budget friendly and they were getting the job done at the fastest pace possible. But let us know, what operating system do you prefer? Our text lines are open and please join the conversation. Coming up on Future Talk, we're going to be talking about a sad story about lonely grandparents and how robots are now coming to keep them a little bit more company.
Check this out. Check this out.
Pulse 95.
Yeah, I thought Omnia was going to start this one off. But
I kept thinking of, what to say, but honestly, this story makes me sad because if anyone's grandparents are still alive, it's such a blessing, to take care of them, to be with them, to show them love and care, and to just hear their prayers and hear all the love that they have to show. But for some people to just kind of put their grandparents on the sideline, not care about them, or maybe those grandparents don't necessarily have grandchildren. But I feel like with a lot of those cases, what's wrong? I'm getting too emotional about this.
yeah, I think you're a little bit lost for words, Omnia.
No, but it makes me really sad because, okay.
I'm letting you have your moment.
For those of you who, are just tuning into the show, Japan actually created this robot that would make grandparents a little less lonely. So it's basically a grandchild robot. I love the idea, but it's just a sad concept to think that now we have to create fake grandchildren to keep those grandparents, company.
Yeah, and Japan actually has a very old population.
Huge percentage, yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, these grandchildren, maybe they can't take care of them, number one. Maybe number two, they never had any grandchildren to begin with or children to produce grandchildren. But we're looking at how using robots to give older people something to engage with is obviously far from a new idea. But to date, we have mostly done it with robot versions of animals, which did include dogs, cats, and even to the extent of singing birds. But obviously, given the current limits of technology, it's much easier to make a slightly compelling artificial pet than obviously one credible human being. But with Ami-chan and Takara Tommy, they have more taken a comic-like approach to avoiding the eerie valley altogether. The robot does look like a character from a studio. How do you say this one? Ghibli? Ghibli.
Yes.
I know Aisha Mazmi loves Studio Ghibli.
Really?
I've seen her talk about it quite some time.
We gotta have her.
And,
I want to know her thoughts about this story.
Mikhail Atiya as well.
Yes.
Right? They love their anime and Japan stuff. But it's obviously the same type of concept, but with exaggerated eyes and a small, subtle smile. So it does definitely lean more towards sweet than scary.
Yes, indeed. So this robot, just like you mentioned, Tani, her name is Ami-chan. She is capable of blinking her eyes. She can close them and close them slowly so that she can stimulate that kind of
Sleepy
idea.
feeling.
Yeah, sleepy feeling, and help encourage those the older generation to fall asleep, because a lot of them actually struggle with insomnia. She also has quite a wide range of motion and animated features, and the best part about it all, she's able to give them that caring feeling, the feeling that they're not alone and a little less lonely. So she would sit there like a doll, but she encourages physical interactions. She will use verbal communication, ask them how they're doing, maybe even open and have some small talk with them. And she has a vocabulary of around 1,600 Japanese words, and she's capable of learning a lot more than that. She knows the names of the grandparents who are currently interacting with her, and she has a camera, so she can use face recognition to visually identify who she's talking to and address them with the proper name so that she can create a much more credible bond. Because imagine dealing with a robot, especially as people grow older, they have a lot less patience. Dealing with a robot that does not know your name, how are you going to establish any form of connection with her?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when it does come to social interaction, all of us, whether we're old or young, if we don't have enough human interaction
True.
or social interaction, depression does come in. And it's always good to talk to someone, right?
Yes.
And, as a true grandchild, Ami-chan will seem completely uninterested in your stories and sometimes even avoid making eye contact.
Do you like the stories that your grandparents
Yes.
tell you?
Yeah, my grandpa, he always talks about Palestine.
Yeah.
So I will always listen because it's part of our history. But, in addition to participating in a back and forth chat, obviously using speech recognition, Ami-chan also does sing 40 different nursery rhymes and songs, and even some of them can play with the time of year in mind. So let's say, for example, it's Christmas, right?
Yes.
They'll sing a Christmas song, and they can play games like Heavy Twisters that are actually designed as brain training exercises. Now, the robo grandson can also be rocked to sleep, triggering a simulated nap that even includes the fine talking in his sleep that begins to, kind of unsettling. You have a talking robot, baby robot in your hands.
Gives them some action in their lives.
Yeah, they're trying to, make it as real as possible. And
Yes.
hats off to these Japanese inventors. They're making a less lonely world for these grandparents.
These robots, though, are not cheap. They come at a price tag of about $250. But, unlike buying, a puppy or a cat for your grandparents, it is kind of cheaper in the long run, because imagine, you don't have to vaccinate these pets. You don't have to constantly buy them food or water, or at least, deal with the grandparents not being strong enough to take care of them. The only thing you'll need for this robot is a new set of batteries every now and then. So that would make the price tag a little easier to swallow, but still.
I mean, they're like 70 years old. They have $250.
True, but another thing.
Lifelong of savings.
Another thing is also some grandchildren will buy it in Japan, are buying it for their grandparents because they want to replace the guilt that they feel, knowing that they can't be around their grandparents all the time or have the time to take care of them. But I personally feel like
If everyone pitches in like $50.
go visit them.
I'm saying, obviously I'm saying maybe they're at a different area, a different time, a different place. Who knows? They're in a nursery home. They have underlying conditions. They have to be in care 24/7. There's different, situations and scenarios.
I'm with robots for whatever you want. But when it comes to emotional connections, I will never
obviously,
get the concept.
The humane way would be obviously to visit your grandparents.
Yeah.
But again, sometimes, they need
Life
attention
happens.
24/7. And, I mean, again, in Arabic, they call it Salat al-Rahim.
True.
Right?
We get rewarded for actually visiting our grandparents.
We get rewarded, but at the same time, again, different cultures, different people. We don't know the Japanese culture that much. Maybe it's in their culture. I know in America, a certain age nursing home, right? Whether or not, there's a good connection
What
or
I
not.
know is the Japanese culture is actually very close to our Arabic culture. They have a lot of the same values. So let us know. Do you like this robot, Ami-chan? Would you think of getting
Ami-chan.
it? Ami-chan. Would you get it for your grandparent? I think it would be nice as
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
Yeah, because I'd rather go.
Same. But I feel like if you would go, but you still want that as like a company for every single day, if you can't visit them every single day, then why not? But just not on its own. Let us know your thoughts. 4215 do Salat or send into our DMs at Pulse 95 Radio. We will see you again tomorrow, same time, same place, from 2 to 3 p.m. Until then, we've got shows lined up for you all throughout the day, starting with Afternoon Karak from 4 to 5 p.m. and leaving you and giving you company on your drive back home from 5 to 8 p.m. with Yalla Home. So make sure you keep Pulse 95 locked, and we'll see you tomorrow.
If you liked this episode of Future Talk, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.